We have an international speaker here, someone who has gone into space, gone to ISS, representing South Korea. This is Dr. Yi Su-yen. If you want to use the Korean tradition, or Suyun Yi in the English tradition. And on that note, take it away.
Hello everyone, so nice to meet you, and yeah, it's wonderful to be here to meet you everyone, and it's very interesting topics covered from yesterday and today, and I feel like really interesting because once I left the Korean Space Agency several years ago, and I don't have that many people who are talking about space that seriously and that kind of interestingly, that kind of long, a lot of kids and high school and university students I get along with, but not many professional in same time and discuss about that. So that's really feel like home, and I love it. And yesterday, some of people was asking me, and then why all the astronauts wear the flight suit, and then they don't have to wear. And then some NASA astronauts said we cannot help because we push it to wear. But my case is I'm kind of feel like to wear my flight suit because I'm proud of myself to fit in this same suit for 11 years. It's not easy, yeah. Yeah, and then all my female friends said once you will be pregnant, you cannot wear a flight suit anymore after that. So I really want to enjoy this time with my flight suit as long as possible. And then seriously, some little girls ask me, how can you fit in 10 years in same suit? And yeah, that's a huge job to maintain my body in there. Yeah. And yeah, most of you already had several astronauts talks. Of course, we had yesterday also. So I read a talk about what I thought and how I feel rather than a technical or the boring kind of abbreviation or something like that. You can do right away with Googling, and then you don't have to meet me. But a lot of thought and ideas and feelings, emotional things, it's not easy to kind of share together if you don't meet them in person. So that kind of cause I always put my title as a mindless from the weightlessness, because we can kind of realize a lot of different things once you leave the place you used to be. So it doesn't have to be space. So thinking about your travel, you're already away from your home, some of you, and sometimes you go to totally different continent, or sometimes just the top of the mountain. You have a lot of different ideas, and then you can kind of regret yourself or sometimes, and then sometimes you're proud of yourself. But space is a little further, so that's even more serious and more kind of profound. And that's because some of the astronauts always want to take the world leaders to the space, not to make them fight each other, and not to make them childish like they act like that. So I think it's a really great idea. But before that, 2006, 2005, and Korean government had an agreement with the Russian government to make the one Korean citizen to send to the International Space Station. And some people ask us, and why Russia? Yeah, I also wondering about why Russia, because we know that Korea is a really good relationship with America, but why not with the NASA, but with Russia? And then even until that time, Korean people doesn't know and then cannot be sure about that, how much budget they can take care of that to send an astronaut. And then most of the NASA people want to have a long time agreement and participant together or collaboration together, not just sending the one person to the International Space Station. But our political system and government system, and they cannot guarantee for the 10-year or 5-year budget guarantee. So they really need a short term. But only Russian government said we can just send one person with just a little money for just 1 year contract kind of thing. And that's very Korean culture fit because it's a hurry and everything's in fast, every package is delivered in a half day. So they love it. And finally we agreed, and one Korean space astronaut will had a training in Russia for 1 year, and I went to the International Space Station in 2007 or 8. And after that agreement, there's two different huge competition began. One for the astronaut, another for the space experiment. So for an astronaut, there was a 36,000 candidate. I was one of them. And I was end of my almost PhD. And then I thought like that would be the last memory as the student and a young person. Once I got a job, maybe I cannot do that fun things ever, never. So I might have a good memory during my academic life. And then, of course, it should be the secret to my advisor, because a lot of Korean engineering school advisor doesn't want their PhD students be kind of distracted by anything. So my advisor doesn't like me to sing with my band, and then he never come to my concert at all because he doesn't like me to anything else research. So it was secret to my advisor. And all my lab mates keep quiet to protect me. And then whenever I run to the marathon and had an interview and then kind of thing, one day my advisor tried to find me, and then my lab mate said, she has some kind of issue with her family, so she went to the hometown. Or she's kind of sick. Or so I feel so grateful for my lab mate to keep the secret until I became a final 10. And once I made a final 10, cannot help it, because all the daily newspaper covered final 10 candidate, and then face, name, and photo, and even affiliation. And then my advisor came to me, and then he was smiling, surprisingly, and he loves it because right after my name, I always have my advisor name, and name of the lab, and name of the school, because I'm a student. And he has a free marketing of his own research center, because every single newspaper covered me, and then I always should talk about my laboratory is really good, and he told me keep doing that. So, and that's good. And finally, from the 10, we had almost every weekend a reality TV show, who will be eliminated, who will be survive, and they had a interview with a person who eliminated already, like Project Runway or something like that. And then I always waiting for the time, then I crying and having an interview, and then packed my suitcase and go back home. And a TV show always want to do that, even if we don't want to do, because they have a huge exclusive contract with the Korean Space Agency for the publicity. And once we have a final 6, it's a Christmas day of the 2006, it's 8 p.m., so quite peak family TV time. And I was on the stage, and they said, how do you feel? And then I said, nothing to lose tonight. And then MC asked me, why? Because if I became an astronaut, of course that's amazing. And if I became a final 2 candidate to go to the Russia, either backup or primary, that would be amazing, because either first Korean backup astronaut or either first Korean astronaut, either one. What if I became a rest of 4? That's also great, because I can be the close friend of the astronaut. Because final 6, they are so all close friends, because we go along all the year together to survive. So that was a really amazing night, but even they call my name, I cannot believe it. And then all my friends and everybody's so kind of happy and exciting. But one question is, I already told yesterday, some of people here, and all my relatives and close friends worry about my marriage. Because you announced that you are the most aggressive woman in Korea. Who want to take you? Yeah. And even my mom told me, I'm so happy to have you as a daughter, but I don't know about the daughter-in-law. Yeah. And what if my son bring the girl like you? Maybe I cannot be happy to have her as a daughter-in-law. That's the kind of, at that time's cultural recognition in Korea. But anyway, I was really happy. But my original plan was to survive with 300 actually out of the 36,000. I thought that would be enough to make one impressive line of my resume to apply my job or postdoctoral position after my PhD. But I got much more than that, so I was so happy. And then we went to the Russia, and it has a lot of training, most toughest Russian language. And then, of course, you see the toilets and food and hyperbaric chambers, and more interesting thing is the camera and kind of movie camera introduction, because they said most of the astronauts' background is engineer or pilot, they are not good at marketing and promotion. So their filming is always boring and not that interesting, but taxpayer doesn't like that at all. So they even hired a personal tutor for the filming and camera from our TV company, some of the professional producer and cameramen, because they want to show the whole Korean people, see what's the space is like, what's the zero gravity is like, not the focus on only experiment, because nobody knows it's in a space or not if you just focus on and then zoom up the experiment also. But I was an engineer. I was more interested in my experiment rather than everything's floating. So they keep telling us, taking the film or photo, any kind of things, including something floating and background as an International Space Station, because not many people know about that. So at that time, I learned a lot about the promoting and marketing things, even if I was an ignorant engineer before. And finally, 1 year training is over. And of course, it's not surprising at all. I was a backup at the very first time. Maybe some of you already know, because the Korean government want to make a guy fly first, and then most of the people's consensus. But thankfully, a lot of Russian instructors strongly recommended me rather him. And some kind of incident also happened. And then a month before launch, I became a primary from the backup. And then my mom started worrying about me. And then she was so happy to that I was a backup. She was to start worrying about what if you will fly. And in 2007, March, I went to the Baikonur to prepare my flight. And then all of you already know that. And then Russian launch is a little bit different from the American launch, because if you want to see the either shuttle launch or any rocket launch, you just fly to the Florida and then sit on any Cocoa Beach and you can see the rocket just fly away. You don't have to have a security clearance. You don't have to do anything from far. But in Russia, launch facilities in the Baikonur, Kazakhstan. So maybe nowadays a little more easier, but at that time, still during my flight, all the Russian space program is under the military. So to go Baikonur Space Launch Center, to go there to watch the rocket, you should have a 2 security clearance through the Russian Space Agency and then Kazakhstan military also. So you will know, you cannot help knowing that who will come for watching your launch. You have a list of the delegation to the observation center. So I know who will come. But she was not in that list, actually. But of course, you know who she is, Tereshkova. And then she got to know I became a primary instead of the backup a month ago. And actually, as I heard from the space agency, Russian space agency, you should apply your application to go to the Kazakhstan 6 months ahead. If you didn't apply, you cannot never ever go there. But she know a month ago, but she made it. And then maybe you know why. And then she finally come to my launch pad and then even hold my hands, but look at her face. Not that happy, yeah. But I saw that photo after my flight. And then because that photo was taken on the launch day. And then I know she loves me a lot. And then she was almost like my grandma during my training and all the time. Even after my training, every time I met her, she keep asking me, do you have a boyfriend? You see anybody? You should marry. You are not young anymore. You need a son or a daughter. And then typical Russian grandma, she keep nagging me whenever I met. And then when I start dating my husband right now, and then I bring him to the astronaut meeting, and she even interviewed my husband. And then my boyfriend at that time said, oh my God, you have 100 of mom and dad here. Because there's 100 of a Russian astronaut over there. And then they keep asking my boyfriend, what are you doing? What's your job? How's your mom and dad doing? How many siblings do you have? How much money you make? And then they keep asking. And anyway, she's kind of like that. And then when I saw that photo after my flight, I was so moved. It was huge touching because she's not smile. Because it's exactly like if my grandma came here. So she fly in space around the 26-year-old, not by the Soyuz, but by the Vostok. At that time, all those spaceships is not that safe enough. They don't know if they will survive or not once they got on there. And you know at that time, every single Russian astronaut, they land with a parachute, not with a capsule. So huge risk. But she thinks she's okay because she fly. But after becoming a mom and grandma, it's not okay for their kids. So my mom is the same. My mom tell me, you know what, when I was 12 years old, I should cook the rice, I should feed my siblings, and I should take care of everything. So it was really tough. But when I became a 15 years, don't touch even knife. Don't even thinking about to go to the kitchen. It's dangerous. Why for my mom, 12-year-old mom is okay, but 15-year-old me is not okay. That's the mom's reaction always. So she exactly do like that and hold my hands. So yeah, don't worry about it. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. And I look at her, it's not okay at all. But I'm totally okay with it, yeah. It's exactly like the first day of the school. Your first grade daughter go to the school, she's smiling, but you are not smiling at all. Oh, it will be okay. Yeah. So I love this photo because she's not smiling. And that's the human side of the astronaut. And most of the people think those astronauts are not human, they are national hero, they are kind of like somebody who is totally special kind of thing. But when they fly, maybe, but other time, they are just our grandma and mom. So at the time, I realized that I'd rather be the person like her. So some people ask me, what's your concept? And some journalists ask me, what kind of role model do you want to be? And then I said, I just want to be a woman next door. So everybody just think like, if she can make it, maybe I also can make it. Why not? And that kind of things are most inspiring to me. Whoever mentor, whoever kind of role model of mine, they act like that, so I love it. And finally, successfully launched. And there was more than 100 proposals submitted to the Korean Science and Technology Ministry, and they picked the 16 experiment to bring to the space station, and I was trained by the PIs of all those space experiments, especially bottom line is from the science textbook of Korea, primary school, elementary school, and high school to show what the surface tension is, what the zero gravity is, what the Newton's law is. It was the most exciting experiment during my mission, but also most toughest. Because if I made a mistake, it's harder to explain to the kids. And then in the middle of the filming, what if I make a F sound or a S sound, or if I made a mistake, I cannot redo. So I should be so careful to use the official Korean language without any engineer's bad language. So that's really hard, actually. And you can kind of see a little bit part of the space experiment, please. Yeah. So I bring the seed of some Korean vegetables and grow there and show the kids how it grows, and bring the fruit flies because they can make several generations even in 1 week. So we can check the different generation and the genetics and walking. Of course, I cannot forget kimchi because it's very Korean traditional food. So all those kind of space experiment was originally designed by the Korean people, and then I take care of that. I was so proud of it. But of course, mindfulness, and I really want to show the Korean kids what is the zero gravity, but also Korean culture is a kind of chi and silence, and so I want to show them, even if I'm not a master of the Shaolin temple or something, but I can do the meditation like that in the middle of the air and an inner peace. And I played Taekwondo more than 10 years, so I have a 3rd black belt. And my dream was to be the kind of badass to kick the bad people and an enemy and then kick out that and do the flying kick. Whenever I watch the action movie, I always one of them. And I always dream in the night be the part of the Jackie Chan's teams and Bruce Lee's team. Finally, I can do that in space. And I can tell all Korean kids that you can do the flying kick even if you never learned Taekwondo before, because a huge benefit of the zero gravity. And as the first representative of South Korea, I should bring a lot of different cultural stuff and then show that Korea is here all together, not only myself, but also all together over there. I was so touched because thousands and thousands of people gathered in Seoul Square and they watch my launch and they watch my activity. That's really amazing because I keep thinking like, what if I'm not an astronaut? What if I'm just graduate students in Korea, did I go to the Seoul Square to watch the first Korean astronauts launch, or I should take care of my experiment in my lab? Maybe I should stay in my lab and take care of my experiment because I always behind the schedule. But people sacrifice their time and sacrifice their energy and then to cheer me up and support me up, and they gather together. It's a really, really touching situation. And then that's because I feel so huge responsibility to pay back all my life for the next generation and the general public in Korea and also outside, because I feel so touched whenever I have a talk and then so many people come and try to hear me and listen to me, even if they don't know who I am if I take off my flight suit. But they still come and listen to my story, and that's really touching. I feel always owe something to them. And of course, we believe we are not only the representative of our country, but also we are just a global people. So sometimes I said, I don't think I'm Korean, I don't think I'm American, I don't think I'm European, I'm just think an Earthian, yeah, because we are all same on the earth. So we try to do anything as an astronaut, any action to appeal peace of whole earth and then do something for the peaceful earth, especially nowadays, even if we don't have a real serious war, but almost war against some country and some kind of serious economic situation, and they debate each other, fight each other, not only digitally, but also physically. So we always want to do something. And then at the time, luckily and honorably, Secretary General of UN was the Korean also, and then he gave the UN flag to me and then do something in a space to impose the peaceful earth to everybody. So I put the stamp on it and then bring it back to the UN, and then it's still on the hallway of the UN Secretary General inside of the frame. I feel so honored to do that. And I always bring this video because I really want to show the people space is not that boring place. And space is not only for the engineers and scientists. Space is not really, really hard or some technical thing. It's also a place to live. Still, some people are living over there. They do their daily life in space station. As I talked with Samantha Cristoforetti, Italian astronaut, she stayed in a space station for 200 days, and she told me like that, you know what? Once you stay over there several weeks, you feel like it's home. You feel like you just stay over there forever because you just adapted. And you can see why. Fly me to the moon and let me play among these stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Feel my heart song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. And in other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Thank you. Yeah, you can see the real life of space station actually, and a lot of wires flying around. It is the zero gravity. You see my ponytail is floating above my head, and everybody hold the handrail. They keep floating like that. So it's really great way to show the kids and general publics to understand what is the space like. And also because we are human, we have a coffee over there, ketchup over there, hot sauce over there, and some Russian religious printing over there, because astronauts also pray for something to somebody, because we also have a human. So all those things are really effective to the people who've never thought about the space before, and they just feel like the scary about the being in space. And one of the biggest regret I did in this movie is I should have put the American astronaut right next to me instead of the Russian astronaut, because you see that? Hold my hands, I reach my hands, but Russian astronaut just But what if Gerard Reisman is right next to me? Maybe he might hold my hands. Yeah. So I can tell you, I did a music video even before the Chris Hadfield because it was 2008, and at that time I didn't have a time to prepare all those things, so I just rushed to go over there. But if I go again, I should be more prepared to make better video and interesting situation. Oh, sorry. And yeah, like all other astronauts, most amazing time is to look down to the Earth, look through the window. And unfortunately, when I was up there, we don't have a cupola, so we only have that windows look down there. And when you look down to the Earth, and then you had a lot of idea and thought, especially people like me from the Korea, very little small peninsula around Asia. And that was so funny situation I had because whoever go to the Space Needle or Empire State Building or top of the Mount Everest or top of the Mountain Rainier or top of any tower, first action of any common people is try to find something familiar. So when you go up to any tower in your hometown, you try to find your house. And then I still remember when the Google Earth first released, and all my landmates, we kind of gathered in one computer, biggest display, and then we zoom, try to find our car in a parking lot. Yeah, that's my car. So that's our thing. Then, astronaut, when they go to space station first time, first action is when I can look down my country, when I can look down my city. Me too. But it's a kind of Murphy's Law. Whenever I have a time and then go to the window, open the shutter, try to look down, it's always farthest from the Korea. And I should wait another 45 and 50 minutes to get around to come to the Korea. And then wait, and then go and do some experiment and come back and check, go and come back and check. And laptop keep telling you where you are above, they keep telling us, little voice, and then Susha in Russia, USA, and Gitai, China, and Lassi in Russia. Wait, and then finally they said, Gare, yeah, Korea. And then pick up my camera and come back, already past peak. And then my Russian friends always giggling me and you better prepare before. Yeah, such a little cute country always pass really fast. I know, you have a really big country, so you need 10 minutes to watch, but I only have several seconds to watch. And that's really interesting. And the next idea, why on earth I was born that little small spot rather than the big, huge African continent, big, huge China, or like a USA or Russia? And then how low probability to be born there? Yeah, even in US, you were born in the Seattle or New York or San Francisco or LA, that little small region, you were born there, but you've never done anything to be born there. And you can see this kind of sad photo also. That was taken by Scott Kelly when he stayed in space, and he sent me to kindly because I couldn't take that kind of photo because my flight was too short, and then I had my own mission during the night, so I couldn't take any photo during the nighttime. And it is the soul. That shiny little spot is the soul. And right next to little bottom, you see the total black. Where is it? North Korea, yeah. And if you have a really big good resolution and zoom it, you could see the clear border between North Korea and South Korea, because as far as electricity grid goes in South Korea, we have a street light, but above there, total black, because they don't have enough electricity over there. So you could see a distinct border between two countries, even if 1970, 1980, most of the astronauts said we couldn't see any border between the country above space, but we could see. And most popular one is this. And second popular one is India and Pakistan also. So only when the very rich country and then very poor country get together, you could see the border at night. And then as a Korean citizen, it's so sad. And then my idea I talked about before come to here. Kids grow up there. They also didn't do anything to be born there, but they were born there. of course, I hate the leader, but I feel so sad for all the innocent women and kids and people who were brainwashed by the leaders. And I keep thinking a lot of things. And I applied for an astronaut. When I was selected, many of Korean people kind of surprised because I grew up in a rural area, farming community. My mom and dad even couldn't go to the college at all. My mom even didn't go to the middle school because of the conservative family culture. So that kind of background is mine, but I was selected as an astronaut. So some people is kind of shocked. How can she? And all those time, I always fight for getting the scholarship. I always have a part-time job to pay my dormitory and everything. I always chasing any scholarship opportunity to do my study. I thought it's not fair because some of my friends has really well off. But when I see that, maybe some of the kids grow up over there, some of the women who has exactly the same age of mine, they think it's not fair compared with me. And I thought like, oh my God, I was so bad at being grateful. So even if I had a lot of things already, but I always chasing something I couldn't have yet, and I forgot about something I should be grateful a lot. And then that's the thing I really want to tell people who've never been in space, kind of like look down to the earth, where we are right now, compared with the whole other Earthians around the world. And of course, it's not fair. With any region, with any situation, sometimes I'm unfair situation, sometimes I'm fair situation, either way. But still, we have a lot of things to be grateful for. And then still, we are not that kind of person who deserve to have all those things. Looking back to all the things I've done before. So that was the biggest mindfulness from weightlessness for me. And I always share this idea with everybody. And of course, we are not a Bill Gates. And then we are not a kind of Warren Buffett. So we cannot help all those people over there. But first step would be the action, like being grateful for something we already have. And then whatever we can do, we consider them, we can do something for them. We all are good at engineering and science, and then we can share all those knowledge to the people who can better life and then well off for that. So that would be the main responsibility of mine for whole my rest of life, I think. And one of the big takeaway when I was in Russia, actually, frankly speaking, I've never was the kid who dreaming about night sky. Actually, I don't know why, but I didn't have any fantasy about the night sky or star or galaxy at all. I just grew up with my grandma, and then she always have a hard time with the small little garden, and then we don't have any time to look up the sky. Wow. And a lot of my friends who was in engineering school, they always talking about astronaut and space, Star Trek and Star Wars. I was not that fascinated. And then some people ask me, then why you apply for an astronaut? And I said, Korean government has a huge announcement. We will pick an astronaut who will take care of the experiment in space. And then I was an engineer to take care of the experiment every day. And then my lab was boring, but what if in a space? That would be really cool. So that was my process. And then for me, space is not the imaginary place. Space is just kind of working place. Yeah. So that's because I became an astronaut. So until I went to Russia, I had no idea about who is the Yuri Gagarin. And then I don't know who is the Tsiolkovsky also at that time. And in the middle of the training, my radio communication instructor came to me and then tell me, Soyeon, you should go someplace. And then, where? And he said, Kaluga. And then, where is the Kaluga? And he said, that is the birthplace of the Tsiolkovsky. And I told him, who is the Tsiolkovsky? And then he told me, you are an astronaut. So, and then he had a deep sigh as a Russian space instructor. And he's the great-grandchildren of Tsiolkovsky also. So I made him down, actually. And he said, and hold my hand, then you really should go there. And I learned about him. And I'm so honored to be invited by the Tsiolkovsky's grandchildren's house. I even sit on the bed. Tchaikovsky was passed away. They still use that. That's the Russian tradition. And then I visited his house and then touched everything. And that was really amazing. And then on the biggest space museum in Russia, in the Kaluga, they put the sign like a planet is the cradle of humanity, but one should not live in a cradle forever, in Russian, of course. And I couldn't understand at the time. I barely know Russian. How can I understand? And even Sergei, the great-grandchildren, translate in English and then explain to me, but I couldn't get it totally. But after my flight, I keep thinking about that words and a sentence. It keep around me. It's buzzing in my brain. I don't know why, but keep coming. And I read it again. Yeah, planet is the Earth. So Earth is the cradle of humanity, of course, because we got everything from Earth for free, because Earth doesn't send us a bill. We just trade each other. So air, water, all the natural resources from the Earth. So we are like a baby in the cradle, and Earth is almost like a mom to provide everything. Then why we should not live in a cradle forever? That was my question when I read that sentence. And now I could understand, because if baby didn't leave cradle, they cannot grow up. Forever they should drink milk, forever they should have a diaper. Even if get out of the cradle, it's really hard because they keep falling down, they spill all the food, and then they crawling. But anyway, they should get out of the most comfortable place, and then they can grow up. And then they can go to the restroom, they can do their things by themselves, they can be independent from their parents. So humankind also, once we leave our most comfortable place, Earth, we might grow up and develop ourselves, and we can look back ourselves again, and we can think about ourselves better. That's the thing. So I think it's really amazing words. So whenever I have a presentation, I always bring this sentence and share it together. And that's what I want to talking about today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.